Hi there, welcome to the Noah Presgrove case. Today I've got a very important video to share with you, so you don't want to miss out. Be sure to watch from start to end so you get that full understanding today. Appropriate language will be used, and I'll give a disclaimer in just a second. But today the material involves some never seen before screenshots, text conversations, and others with time which may have been archived. A collection of other bits and bobs which have been posted publicly on Facebook pages and has been confirmed. Bringing it all together today for me to see, analyze. This is kind of a viewer requested video. Some people may have been demanding, which is a bit unnecessary because, as I said, there's a time and place for everything. The appropriate nature of the environment, what's at hand, what's accessible as well, and the context behind it. If one is to rush in like a bull in a china shop, there's a chance that the odd teapot may fall and crack, and we don't want any broken teapots or kettles, do we? And furthermore, if there is any additional pushing or shoving in a forceful, entitled way, we're going to have issues. But luckily, the odd individual has managed to keep it together, maintain a level of patience, understanding, cooperative as well. So credit, shout out to the odd individual out there. I won't mention names just out of respect for privacy to an extent, but you'll know who you are. And in terms of the screenshots and bits and bobs today, certain sensitive stuff scribbled out, whatever you want to call it. And yeah, I'm just going to read it to you today. This involves Elisha Lee, Jan Friorillo to an extent, and some other people. It's supposedly to shed light on the truth of what's actually happened and how things been worded with time may have been exaggerated or worded wrongly from a different perspective of an alternative side. It's important to cover these type of videos. Just know it's not exclusive to one set, one group, one individual. I do this all over. If I'm going to question one person, I'll question the other, etc. It's just we've got a focused video today. I still haven't quite given the disclaimer because there's a lot to this and I want to make sure that I cover everything possible. If some people want to yap, bitch or moan, oh, get on with it. No, I need to make it clear as possible so it's under control. If people are that desperate, they can skip ahead possibly. But first of all, welcome to those that are currently here in this live premiere. Share your thoughts and reactions in the live chat box on the right-hand side of the screen. And by the end of this video, if your outlook, your perception has changed of certain characters within the case or outside in the community, drop a comment down below under this video and I'll try and respond back when it's time. There'll be a pinned message as well with additional links if you do want to support this channel. And top right corner of the screen, there will be an eye symbol if you want to check out the latest videos. We're just going to focus on make sure that it's locked in on my face and nothing else. I must have adjusted the settings before, but it seems to be fine now. I'll have the links top right up there, but feel free to check them out later because we need to focus on what's going on right now. The theme of Elisha Lee, the theme of Kaden Pressy. We've covered it in the past on and off. The general theme at the time was Elisha Lee is being attacked unfairly. Kaden Pressy too, if not more, because of him putting himself out there in those timelines, those interviews. He stands out from the rest of the crowd, so it kind of makes him marked target, the odd one out, and then there's resistance along the way. There is supposed gaslighting and more, and covens and groups talking about Kaden or Elisha, and bad words, bad things being said. It boiled over in recent time publicly in one of my videos, which I think was the laptop one, where there's over 300 plus comments now. I predicted it. You remember that video that I did? I said the next day it'll be over 300. I got that right. That's yet another thing. And it's still counting till this day. And it's not that old, the video. So we'll see what happens there. But during that live chat, live premiere, Elisha Lee was present. BBC, Brooke Bounds Carter was, and it was kind of back and forth. Now, it's okay for Elisha to say what she's got to say, and other people too. If you need to defend yourself or set the record straight, you can in the live chat, in the comment section, right now or later. That's what was done at the time. That's fine. The odd person may have apologised afterwards. You don't need to. It's okay. But it's good of people to apologise anyway. It still shows that there's a level of activity in people's minds of what's right, what's wrong, what's appropriate and what isn't. But when things get a little bit messy and it gets a bit muddy, sometimes you just got to try and fight for it. And that can be from any side possible. So in today's video, whether people are present during the live premiere or not, because realistically this case is dropping off by the second in terms of focus, in terms of views and everything, but there are still ideas that I need to cover and viewer request as well. But for the key people that are present and those watching in the background, if at any point you need to set the record straight, clear anything up, add into the grey areas, which may remain a bit of a mystery or doesn't quite make sense, anything that needs adjusting in regards to this video, you can leave a comment below or in the live chat. And if you need to defend yourself, you can too. So with that being said, we looked at it from one perspective, one side back then, where it was Kaden Pressy and Elisha Lee under attack, being questioned, supposed false things being made, didn't look too good, made the opposition, the dark side, appear to show resistance as a form of what? Covering the truth, pushing people away, doing whatever it takes to hide the real truth. That's like how you could interpret it at the time. What's changed since? Well, you think about the hacked Dropbox, which contained the private interview of Kaden Pressy and police back in June 2024. It supposedly got hacked and then it appeared on YouTube by a certain channel. How did it all get passed about? I'm not too sure, but just to term it was hacked. That's what Elisha Lee said. In my videos and titles, I kept saying it was leaked because that's how I first heard it mentioned. It was a leaked audio, not a hacked one. But Elisha stepped on in and said it was hacked, which makes it even more shocking. Then you've had some people along the way, in no particular order, Elisha, Michael, Justin, and anyone else in between, supposedly getting hacked. As for in real life, things getting hacked. Then you've got intelligent people hate me. They were babbling on about getting hacked or something. Seems like everybody's getting hacked. What the hell's going on? And if you remember, because we might as well acknowledge it right now, the time where that person called Happy Shack, you remember? Happy Shack, full of positivity and rainbows and clouds, came on in and dampened the mood. An impetuous, egocentric mindset of making sudden false claims, doing a 360 turn and going elsewhere. Doesn't surprise me. You remember when Happy Shack made false claims saying Walleye Graph has been hacking into my phone and found stuff and deleted it? What? Do I look like a hacker? Do I know how to? Nope. I am a bed boy detective. I'm not even sat on the bed. Wow. But I think people need to get a grip on themselves. The theme of this erratic nature of humans and piss poor language and communication may seep into today's video theme from the perspective of for or against Elisha Lee and others, right? There may be a screenshot. There may be some language. If people interpret it one way, but it means something else, well, there's a bit of distance, disconnect. And you can see how that goes when there's a misunderstanding. So is there any chance that with what I'm going to look at today, which could come across as very shocking to some people, could I bridge that gap, maintain a little bit better control? There's been times in the past where people have gone off on one and said, oh my God, look at this conspiracy. Look at this account. Look at this person. We know who it really is. It's someone else. Or yeah, it's really coming towards the end in a matter of a week or two. All this language wording, hyping it up, and it leads to F all, or at least in the moment. Gotta slow things down, calm it down, and then go from there. Because if senses, emotions are heightened, it could blind your judgment. And because there'll be a great portion of people that care about this case and somehow feel connected emotionally to Noah Presgrove, those type of people are going to be more defensive, more passionate, put more effort in, but it might not always go to plan. Whereas someone like me, I just casually walk on in, not connected, not emotionally connected, just interested in the case. So I might be able to see more, access more with my mind, and bring up points or questions which others have never thought of before because they could only see it one way. That's what I want to do today, look at it from different perspectives. We looked at it from one side back then, where it was Elisha, Kaden, who had been attacked. Do we look at it from the other side now? Or at least from the other side's perspective, how they see, envision Elisha Lee and maybe some others, why they may have a negative or a skeptical mindset towards those other people over there. Yeah. Could this video lead to resistance? I think there is a small chance this video could explode, but may not always be for the right reasons. There could be backlash. It could go very negative, but it is what it is. Once again, just want to highlight that majority, supposedly, of screenshots have been publicly posted at some point. They're just all collectively brought together now to try and tell a story, or at least a side to it, to reveal an alternative point of view. But there will be the odd screenshot which may have never been seen before. So I'm going to try and handle it as best as I can. And when reading, analysing, I had a glance through to try and understand it, and I believe I do so. And it's like a slideshow of how we're going to go through the conversations today. This is all around Facebook or Facebook Messenger. It follows a certain theme and pattern there, as you know. But then again, there might be the odd text message besides Facebook. So we'll just see how it goes today. Hopefully it doesn't cause too many issues. Those that may be frustrated or annoyed by this video, all you have to understand is this is not exclusive. This is not a witch hunt. This is just covering it from a different perspective because you need to get that whole full story. And when you do display that balance, it puts you in the most dangerous position, because if you think about it, if you're on a battlefield and there's two armies going at one another and you're in the middle of the battle and you're not really choosing sides, you just stood in the middle, you're going to take damage from both ways. It can get messy, but long term, it can benefit the case or trying to understand it. And someone needs to do that, because who else is? Just like the Dylan Rounds case, specifically the Dylan Rounds case, I was categorically, with ironclad certainty and confidence, the only individual on this entire planet and Earth that displayed balance there. Can the same happen here? I guess we'll find out with time, because this case hasn't been solved and it's not gone as long as the previous case which I covered. But there's a lot more material and stuff to work with. So just in conclusion to this disclaimer, this is nothing exclusive as in like a direct personal attack. This is just looking at what's presented from the horse's mouth here and there and trying to interpret what it means and if, how, and possibly it could link onto why people may have a negative outlook or are suspicious towards others who are considered victims in this case. Without further ado, let's begin. Here we are. So the first screenshot, what you see is kind of an overview of what's going to come up. So as example, the first one, but let me just read this first. Elisha Lee's claim of being hacked, as in that private interview of Kaden's, is BS, since she was sending out Kaden's Oklahoma Highway Patrol interview to her donors since June. Also, a screenshot of Elisha talking about Kaden's phone analysis will give the information. They, whoever they are, need to come up with a new timeline. Lastly, text between Elisha and OHP trooper Anthony, where she avoids answering him if she saw Noah's shorts being removed in the video. The video which Kaden Pressy was shown by the hands of Kathy Bingham, supposedly. And that's where it links to, I think, the CCTV footage. So the themes of some of this you'll be very familiar with, but the depth and the context maybe not so much, but that's why we're looking at it now. Then it says, not sure if you have it, but I have a 2:30-minute video of Kathy and Elisha talking on the patio. They seem awfully calm for supposedly watching a dead body being tampered with. Well, in regards to that, I have not seen the 2:30-minute CCTV footage video of the Pressy, or whatever you call the last name, household. Okay? Elisha Lee, Kaden Pressy, husband, there. We saw the CCTV footage, you remember, but it was only a short clip. The full-length video wasn't provided. Michael Fazkaz, I believe, did a summary, a little highlight clip on Facebook to prove that Kathy was there such and such a time and was showing supposedly the video, which Kathy claimed was a photo, but there was clear movement on the phone. But we couldn't see Kaden Pressy in the CCTV footage because he must have got up and gone elsewhere, maybe got a drink, getting some food, whatever. But the full-length video shows the three of them present with Kathy Bingham. That's what the reference is here. If it's ever necessary, maybe that 2-minute, 30-second video could help in a way. But in terms of the conversations from that little clip, what we saw, Kathy Bingham said to her, Elisha Lee said, oh, and that's that. I can't remember exactly. Was it, oh, that's police, or that's a policeman. That's him in the video clip. It was like confirming that there was the presence of someone of maybe authority. I have done a bit of a video analysis of that and the audio. I just can't remember it, but it is on my channel if you want to look for it. So this gives a little bit of context as in what we're looking at today and from certain points of views. If it needs to be elaborated anymore, we can do that. First of all, I think it's important that we zoom in just to make it a bit easier for viewing. So this appears to be Facebook Messenger. You got Elisha Lee up there, the Elisha Lee. On the left-hand side, this grey box says, after listening to this, it's clear they do not care what Kaden has to say and only want to twist what he has to say around. After listening to what exactly? Listening to that CCTV footage video clip or listening to that interview? Take in mind, the only reason why I'm questioning this is so we get live feedback, because this is a live premiere and I want this to be raw and natural. Some people may disagree and say, well, you should have done this, you should have done that. No, I do it the way I do because I've got this far doing it, so something is working. There's no point fixing something that isn't broken, okay? Unless you want to take a trip to Brokeback Matrix, well, that's an alternative. We'll get to that maybe down the line. But after listening to this, it's clear they do not care what Kaden has to say. This makes me think something along the lines of that private interview when Kaden was explaining about certain footage and additional things, details, the highway, the removal of shorts, and the way the police guy or guys responded to that interview may have appeared a bit shocked, kind of discrediting Kaden, trying to twist or word it. And then even earlier on in the interview as well, if I may jump ahead, is that when Kaden was saying, oh, I was there Friday, or I was there Saturday, and then the police guy was saying, you were probably there Friday. Yeah, you were likely there. And Kaden was like, yeah. It shouldn't be like that. Whether Kaden was there or not, he should be the one, trying to work out himself, not the police guy. That external presence makes it unnatural and forced. Whether people call that gaslighting or not, I just wanted to mention it. Below is like a collection of photos and screenshots. If I may add, on the left-hand side, highlighted in the grey box, is by Elisha Lee. Elisha is typing these messages. Because as you can see here, next to that greyish box on the left is the profile picture of Elisha Lee. What I also want to say is, not that I think it immediately, but we might as well just bloody throw it out there because it gets questioned a lot with other situations, other points of views, other text messages, bloody Snapchat and all that bollocks, is there ever a chance that certain screenshots or text conversations are directly from the horse's mouth, or could it be a fake alternative account? That's not what I'm saying directly, but I wonder if anyone will bring those possibilities up today. Right? Let's move on. Elisha says, here is my text conversation with Trooper Anthony this morning. Now, it's impossible to read. I can't see it. But it may be added onto the next slide, possibly, or a bit later. So just bear with me. This was June 21st at 7:05 p.m, which I think those screenshots, photos were sent. So if that's June 21st, well, in June of 2024, I don't know what day it was, but in June was that private interview. So it seems to be relevant to the time of the conversation. It's all close together. So this is kind of like archived stuff, I guess. It's not exactly very fresh, which makes you think if you was to measure the difference from then, that time on screen, that date, to now, how much has changed? Is it drastic? Has it remained consistent for the right or wrong reasons? Now, moving on, this is, I believe, is, well, to be honest, that appears to be Facebook Messenger, because you can see top left, it says go back to Facebook page. The outline, the overlay is Facebook Messenger. As for this one, this is from Facebook Messenger, but maybe a screenshot or some kind of overlay, and then it's been sent on elsewhere, because, you know, if we zoom in, at the bottom it says subject iMessage. So it isn't primarily directly through Facebook Messenger. It's like a conversation that's taken place on Facebook Messenger, and then either a screenshot or something has been saved and then passed on through another means of communication, I believe. So this will be from a slightly different point of view, with a default profile picture and the phone number for most part of it blanked out for good reason, which is good. So it shows that some people along the way managed to keep it somewhat under control. This is through iMessage. So I guess a screenshot possibly. But then again, in terms of the boxes and outlines, this could well be from iMessenger as a whole. It's only because the bloody layout looks awfully similar to Facebook, with the exception of the bottom part here and the top part up there. Just want to put it into perspective. Nevertheless, through iMessage, there are two either screenshots or videos. And this is to do... It's a slightly different perspective, if I'll be honest with you, because the clip that I saw... a part of the same video, but a different time stamp. Elisha in the black shirt or black dress sat down. Kathy Bingham in the pink shirt or dress opposite, as you can see. And then on the table, there was a handful of phones, like 3 or 4 of them. It was pretty crazy. And then by the side of Elisha on the right, there was a chair, which the husband was present. But through these, we don't quite see that. But it's a timestamp at the end of the day. It just so happens that through the CCTV footage, you might not be able to see, but in the photos, bottom right of the thumbnail, it says 2024. I think that says 06 and 05. As for the time, I can't quite read what it says, but you get a perspective. This has been passed on. Oh, it's flicking about. Today at 7:45 a.m, but that doesn't mean to say as of today. It's probably old. But someone in a grey box says, okay, thank you. Who is this? So I can make sure, and who is in this video? And then in blue, Kathy Bingham, the private investigator, and Kaden's mother, Elisha. This is the video my son told you about during your interview with him. So as for context, so no one's confused, I think On the left in grey is a person of authority, which could be Anthony, as it was mentioned on the previous slide. We've heard the name Anthony in recent time when going about on Facebook looking at some conversations, and I said, who the F is Anthony? Well, we're getting an idea now, part of some kind of authority. In the blue box, when I first read it, I was thinking, wait, who is this? Kathy Bingham and Kaden's mother, Elisha? And then, by saying the video was my son, which told you about. My son as in Kaden. So in blue, this text box is Elisha Lee. She's typing, responding back to that greyed box of supposedly Anthony, if I'm correct. Yeah. And to say, this is the video my son told you about during your interview with him. Well, it's the interview, the private one with the police, where Kaden was bringing up about the highway footage, tampering with evidence, but then furthermore explaining where it came from or how he was showing it. And Kaden said, well, Kathy Bingham came round to our house and showed the video, and mainly just us. Did she show it to anybody else in between or before? I don't know. And obviously the police guys, the authority in the interview, were a bit taken back and surprised and wasn't fully aware of it or so. Or may have been interpreted as they were surprised that someone like Kaden would know about it when it's sensitive material. And maybe those police guys are aware that it does exist, but they're just shocked that Kaden knows about it, along the lines of that. So yes, in the blue box is Elisha Lee speaking. It's just how she typed where it said, and Kaden's mother, Elisha Lee. It sounded, well, it's basically typing in third person. That's why it comes across a little bit confusing at times, but it's cleared up now. And in response, did you see the video on Kathy's phone? What was the response? Oh, it's zoomed me out. I don't like it when it does that. Dodgy iPhone. I don't know why it does that. I've got to use both fingers. This phone does not like me using one finger. It wants two. How greedy. Okay, let's get rid of this silly overlay. Continuation of the conversation. Did you see the video on Kathy Bingham's phone? And Elisha responds, yes. Isn't that what Kaden Pressy told you? You asked him to send you a screenshot of her, Kathy, being present at our house as proof and evidence. I did more. I sent you the video of her showing it to me and then discussing what was on the video. You can see my husband's shoe on the corner of the video. He was sitting on the flower bed ledge. And to be honest, the clip, what I saw, the CCTV footage, the husband was in clear view on the right-hand side of Elisha. So it wasn't that hard to see. I didn't see Kaden, but once again, it was only a certain highlight from that CCTV footage. In response, the guy says, yes, that is correct. Does it show people taking clothes off, Noah? I can't see the video. The reason why that's fair to say is because what Elisha Lee has given to this individual, who may be called Anthony, the police guy, the CCTV footage, yes, clearly shows and identifies who's present on site of the house and the act of multiple phones and showing one to Elisha and then some conversation confirming what the case is. But from the perspective of the camera and what we can see compared to what Elisha can see is miles apart, because we've done an analysis. I've done a cleaned up, enhanced version of a photo or a bit of a video playing back and forth, if you remember, and you could clearly see there was movement on the device which Kathy was holding herself, back and forth, because I replayed it over and over again. And normally when you've got a photo, there won't be any movement within it. As soon as there is movement, it doesn't become a photo, it can become an animated GIF or a video, a short one, a long format, or even a time-lapse video, which is a collection of photos branched together, multiple succession to create a form of animation movement, which turns into a video. Unless it's like a photo slideshow, but the pace of it doesn't quite match up. The only other thing I could possibly think of, if I'll be honest with you, which I didn't mention at the time because I didn't think, was When it comes to iPhone specifically, you can take a photo, but you can turn on live. What is a live photo? It's basically you take a normal photo, but what it does, it actually captures a couple of seconds of footage. So when you access it in the gallery, it'll be described as a photo. But if you hold down on the screen or tap it, it will actually play a little bit of a video, such as you holding the phone and anything in sight moving by. It's a bit of a pointless feature, if I'll be honest with you, because it only captures like 0 point something seconds, but it's still classified as a photo, unless that's what Kathy Bingham had. But nevertheless, any form of movement shows that there's a level of activity going on within a frame. And people say a photo or a painting can tell a million stories. Well, if it's a photo / a video hybrid, it's going to tell even more. It's going to show more. But it's unfortunate that us, the audience, can't be for definite, because we're only seeing it from the CCTV camera, as like this guy supposedly is. So whilst it's good Elisha providing evidence and proof to back up Kaden Pressy, as in Kathy Bingham came on down, Kathy Bingham showed this and that, and we were here to see it, us, in where it's been proven to us, or more so this guy on here, we can't actually see what's on screen of the phone because the CCTV camera isn't clear enough nor in the right angle. Does that make sense? If it was possible for Elisha or Kaden to pass on that video clip, what was shown to them by Kathy Bingham, onto the police directly, then this guy here that says, yes, that's correct. But about, I can't see the video, well, they would be saying, I can see the video. But on this occasion, you can't, because you're only looking at it from the CCTV camera, right? But the bit about questioning, does this video show people taking clothes off Noah? Asking a question, a genuine one, supposedly, because they can't see the video from that CCTV footage. What's Elisha's response though? Then why are you asking me if I saw the video? You can clearly hear us discussing what was on the video and see her showing it to me. As you do not trust me, I do not trust you. Right. One little sub point that was brought up by the odd individual in the background is Elisha's response to a question. But I understand it from both perspectives. Elisha Lee, with what may have happened before or after and in between, you could be a bit cautious. You may not know who to trust. Trust issues along the way, getting screwed, getting attacked, getting questioned, threatened, harassed, whatever it may be. And that doesn't just apply to Elisha, it could apply to others in the case and parents of parents. When things get messy online, in real life, or both, and you come across people along the way, you may put trust in to an extent, you may get stabbed in the back after, it can cause short to long-term damage. And even in the past, unrelated to the case, you get screwed, it messes with you. So in the future, any slight question, slight form of doubt, anything that makes you think, my senses, my gut feeling is feeling off about this individual, you might be a lot more defensive now. You might have a shorter fuse. You might not have the same patience levels because of how people have treated you over time or at any point. That could apply to Elisha Lee. That is one way of looking at it. So whilst Elisha should have answered the question provided by this guy, because of how it may have been worded or how she interpreted it, was, you're wasting my time, or you're not listening. There's a bit of a disconnect. Are you doubting me? How dare you? I've shown you this, I've shown you that. Is not good enough. What more am I supposed to do? Are you trying to make me slip up, trip up, twist my tongue? What are you trying to get at? So then a lot goes on in one's mind, whether you overthink or not. And if you do overthink, whether that's how it's always been or it's been induced within you over time, it makes everything so much more complex and a lot more harder. And in this case, there might be a lot of trust issues or people with trust issues, and it's like a minefield of mind games. Where do you go? One step forwards, is everything going to implode on itself? Are you going to get attacked? Are you going to get hurt? Can you move forwards successfully without any issues and complications? Because there's been a lot of complications in this case, and even with the simple stories. It's a mess at times. You can understand the cautiousness of people, and even like with Elisha Lee. Do I need to add on Let me just double check and then I'll give you the alternative perspective. So just bear with me. So for the guy to say, does it show people taking off clothes? Because I can't see. I'm looking at it from the CCTV camera of what you've provided me, Elisha. You can see a phone being shown towards you, but I can't see what's on the phone from the perspective of the CCTV camera, just like how Warlight Raf can't either, and most people, because it's limited. Obviously, from Elisha Lee's perspective, who sat down face-to-face with Kathy, seeing that phone, VIP access to viewing it on screen literally and directly, that makes sense. And it also makes sense here questioning, just to confirm. But when Elisha says, why are you asking me if I saw the video? But did you see the video on Kathy's phone? And Elisha says, yes. Didn't Kaden tell you? And then they respond with, yes, that's correct. But in terms of the video, as for a certain detail, did this or that take place? Just to double check and confirm for consistency, no harm in that. But Elisha takes it the wrong way. Maybe too much questioning seems as undermining Elisha as a person or her son Kaden. So you can understand the defensiveness and the instincts kicking on in. I get that. But Elisha does respond by saying, besides you questioning whether you can see it or not, the clear details, you can clearly hear us talking about what's within the video. On that, I can't comment on because I've not seen the full video. All I heard was a brief acknowledgement of, oh yeah, and you got the police guy in there, or in the footage. And then I think Kathy says, yeah, that's exactly what I was thinking. There might have been more detail, more audio description to it, but I've not heard it. So my perspective is limited. But if it does show a full audio description of what's, the contents within that video clip, photo gallery, whatever on that device, are you allowed to take that for word as fact? Or wouldn't it still be better to actually see it directly from the perspective of the phone, not from what someone's describing in that CCTV footage? Is it not good enough? And that's why this guy is questioning Elisha. But if this guy was willing to accept just for words, as in that audio without the actual video footage of the highway, and the audio was good enough, then you could say, well, why is this guy questioning Elisha then? Were the clothes taken off? Did this really happen to Noah? It's fair for Elisha to say, well, we literally said that. We acknowledged it in that CCTV clip, or at least I did. Did you not listen? Do you not even bother watching? Depends how you look at it. It's a double-edged sword. Could this guy responding believe in Elisha, but at the same time acting dumb or being a certain way just to see how Elisha responds? It's kind of like the Dylan Rounds case where you had the parents, you had Justin Rounds, Candice Cooley. They were separated, told different stories, and that was done to measure if they could be trusted, or how do they go about afterwards when relaying things or talking together. It's like a form of mind games, and also monitoring behaviour to check for any suspicion, any unusual stuff. I don't know if anyone's still on my channel that remembers that, but sometimes the police may have certain methods. It's one way of looking at it. Anyway, for Elisha to say what was on the video, and you see her showing it to me, as you do not trust me, I do not trust you. So this way it comes down to the sensitivity factor. If their senses are heightened, if they have been attacked before and they've already got trust issues, if you start communicating with them and you don't have their trust, or you don't show patience towards them, they might pull the chain quick, they might pull the plug. So you got to go about things differently with each person. It's like you could come across someone that may or may not feel comfortable, and depending on how they feel around you, you approach them in a certain way. If they're not quite comfortable but you rush on in, it may not go to plan, it may not work out, it could backfire. If someone is quite comfortable, you might not have to push, you might not have to rush, because the flow guides you along the way together. It depends the connection you have with someone or some people, the conversation, and where it's held at. The fact that this conversation was a private one, technically speaking, from Facebook, I believe, and there's a level of trust that needs to be gained and warranted. The trust factor may vary in a situation like this when you've got a member of the general public, civilian, which I guess is Elisha Lee, which is not being rude, but you call someone like that a civilian, right? Communicating with someone of higher authority and slight power, naturally you may have trust within certain authority. And I know people could roll their eyes back at that, but I'm just talking in general. You got someone in a form of power or authority, naturally you may have a form of respect or a form of trust or hope and belief in that what you say to them or communicate could be held in confidence, privacy, listened to, understood, a level of care. Just like how if you was talking to a psychologist or a therapist, there might be a form of trust, but depending on the situation and the damage done sustained to the person, there may be a building phase, a foundation phase, where you got to build a rapport with the individual. So maybe the same happened here, gaining a level of trust and understanding. And then the moment the other person questions you, you're thinking, oh my God, after all this, you don't trust me? If you don't trust me, you're acting a bit dodgy, then I'm not going to go any further myself, because I'm not going to open myself up anymore to you if this is how you're going to be. So I understand the dynamics about that. This is a private conversation, so there's a higher level of trust in the first place. And if that trust has been broken, that can cause damage over time. In a different situation, if you're communicating publicly with someone, it might not be the best place, might not be the most practical, but if a person can let their hair down and be very open publicly, then either they've got a level of confidence or they've got a deeper level of trust within you. But then at the same time, would they have to have trust within you if it's public, the conversation, and anyone can see it? Yeah, you see the power dynamics, how it can change. Now, to refer back to the alternative perspective in the background by some, people would say, because Elisha avoided responding to a specific question could mean that whatever was on that footage wasn't what it really was, and it was something else, or it was nothing that significant, and it means that Elisha Lee is a liar. That's not coming from my mouth, but that's how people can interpret this. But then again, let's be realistic. That can be thrown towards Elisha Lee, but if it's going to be, and if she's going to be called a liar or a bit questionable in how she responds, skipping, avoiding, working around a key question and not answering it, well, you know what? Elisha wouldn't be the only one. There's been countless people in this case and community. There's been a few I've come across, right? There might have been a range of questions asked towards Mickeline or Mickey Mouse, I can't remember the person's name or so, on YouTube, and they don't respond. And then there might have been, not directly from me, but other people that have asked certain questions towards Brooke Bounds-Carter, and there's not been a response. Now, granted, not everyone can respond to everything, and you may not be present at the time of when you see it. Okay, some people may drop off to sleep, other people may go to the kitchen to get some food, some person may go to the toilet and do what needs to be done there. And in that brief second, moment, minutes passing by and you return back to the screen, that question has already passed by. You have like one time where someone gave a super chat in the past, I did not see it on screen, and then someone was saying, why have you not responded? Why have you not acknowledged it? Because genuinely, I did not see it at the time because I was looking away from the screen or I was doing something else. So yeah, you can't respond back to everything, but if there is a pattern over time where it's like you ask sensitive questions, certain stuff, and the other person does not respond directly or changes the subject, deflection, changing the direction, the pace, the tone of things, why are you avoiding it? Why aren't you answering that question, right? So whilst there are some people saying that due to Elisha Lee's response here, the guy simply asked, does the video show people taking clothes off Noah's body? And Elisha does not respond back to that question. Some would say because there's a possibility that there was no tampering with evidence and that video clip or photo wasn't of tampering, it was something else. But Elisha isn't going to acknowledge that nor answer this question because she can't answer it, and if she tried answering it, it would either be considered as lying or a bit of a bluff or something. That's how people could try and push it across. But the way I see it is, if Elisha Lee is a bit on edge at times when it comes to trusting people, right? Because there needs to be a level of trust to then share things and talk about stuff, whether that's the case or other things in life. And if you're very cautious, one slight slip up by the other person could cause the person to run away. So like you got a fox outside, very cautious creature, animal, and you're on the inside looking through a window. You put your hand on the handle of the window to maybe open it, and it instantly runs off. In the dark, it's silent, it's quiet, they can still see, they can still sense you. You may not know or pick up on their senses, but they may be more sensitive than the other person. Now, to be more sensitive is often used as an insult or a bad thing, but it'd be considered more of a positive thing to be sensitive, because it either could show pure innocence or it could show more care. You don't want to mess things up. You want it to work out. You don't want to cause any trouble. You don't want to hurt someone, so you're going to be a bit more cautious. But on the defensive, you can be sensitive as well, backing off, stepping down when it gets too much, or if it gets too overwhelming, or if you get attacked, or if you feel you're being undermined or questioned. Well, I'm going to use safety measures. Maybe it's learning from the past. Maybe it's adaptation. All kinds of defense mechanisms. So I think, psychologically speaking, there is a subconscious self-defense mechanism within the mind of Elisha Lee when questioned about the footage. So instead of doing the simple thing, asking the question, in the moment, she was more frustrated and maybe disappointed and disheartened by the attitude and response of this guy. So by then it was like, oh, I've had enough of this. I can't answer your question, but I'm just not in the right frame of mind, and I'm more annoyed with this situation. So I'm not going to answer it, but I'm going to give you a piece of my mind. So I can understand why people would see it as, because Elisha did not answer the question, it makes her look a bit suspicious. But I can also understand it that from Elisha's point of view, in the moment, and maybe with trust issues or a level of sensitivity, that when someone you look up to or hope to have trust in questions you, it might put you back up, and you're not as willing to communicate or cooperate any further because you're annoyed, or you may just not trust them anymore. So yeah, you can interpret it either way here. Let's be honest. Let's be realistic. Now, moving on. I believe this could be a part of the same conversation. Let me try and zoom in. What do we have here? Did you see the video? That's correct. Right, so it's kind of like a duplicate screenshot, but it actually shows a bit more of a response from underneath. And in response, the guy says, all I'm trying to do is get all the facts straight and turn over everything possible. She said in the video she couldn't get a hold of me. And then something else. I think that moves on to this side. Yes, it does. The facts straight and turn over everything. So she said, I'm guessing means Kathy Bingham said in the video she couldn't get a hold of me. That's not true. She, I'm guessing Kathy, I couldn't get a hold of. Whatever. Now Elisha responds, Kaden's attorney's number blanked out. Yes, he has an attorney, because I cannot see that law enforcement is doing anything to protect him. Only statements from Carter Combs' family trying to twist every word that he says, stating she speaks to OHP regularly, and you all do not believe anything Kaden says. So like what, a one-way form of communication and trust, but someone like Kaden is seen as a stray, odd person, odd one out, who gives a different timeline, recollection of events. So whilst, yeah, there might be the partygoers and family that may have turned their backs on Kaden or feel disappointed or question Kaden for Kaden doing his own thing, supposedly, but when it comes to authority as well, there is a difference in attitudes towards one person over the others. One rule for one rule for others, possibly. Elisha then says, if you're trying to turn over everything, I guess evidence, then why don't you and whomever else interviewed Kaden let him speak without twisting his words and asking for truths? Thankfully, my son has recorded each conversation he's had with each person that's interviewed him, so I'm speaking from the interview you just had with him. Why haven't you pulled his phone and downloaded his data? Why did you have no knowledge of his interview in October with Zachary Wright? His phone will show what time he went to the scene following Jack's announcement. 5:15 supposedly. Well, if Kaden phones states the time and the ping, well, that'll be very helpful and it will reinforce stuff. Obviously, from an outsider's perspective, general public, just me as well, I've not seen the timestamp of Kaden's phone, so all we've been told is Kaden went here at this point, this moment, through words, and others maybe reinforcing, relaying. Yes, this was the time. It's through words, it's not through hard evidence or phone data or pings. But if it does exist, it's just in the background privately. Well, it's a positive, but at the same time, you can also understand why the general public would still be skeptical to an extent. Once you've seen it, fine. You get better understanding, it's more reinforced. But when you're on the outside looking in, it's just a bit difficult. But in terms of when Elisha says, let Kaden speak without twisting his words and asking for the truths. Well, we saw that within the police interview where when Kaden was a bit confused at times or trying to explain where he was, when he arrived at the party, and one of the police guys interrupted or overspoke and said, well, no, you were there, Kaden, on Friday. Likely you would have been. And Kaden's like, oh yeah, I was. So it shouldn't be like that. It's kind of like putting words into someone's mouth. It's, don't know about manipulating, but overpowering the naturalness, taking over. You should be there to listen and maybe ask some questions, but not to change their story. And as well, the tone, the attitude of the police guy or the police guys when interviewing Kaden, when it got to the point where Kaden highlighted about the highway footage, the tampering with Noah's body, it got a bit heated. There was some arguing, the wording, the language. It definitely changed up, but not for the right reasons. It wasn't a good look. It didn't look professional. It was lacking it. We have analysed it on my channel in the past, so you can always look back if you want. What else do we have here? Why haven't you pulled Kaden's phone and downloaded the data? Why did you have no knowledge of the interview in October with Zachary Wright? So it's only the October interview which we've not seen publicly, but obviously it would be very interesting to know that one because it's the freshest at the time of post-death of Noah. It'd be interesting to compare the October private interview with the June 2024 private interview. Because when comparing the June 2024 private interview with the public Partners in True Crime interview, there are vast differences with times given, and it's a bit problematic. Even if others didn't acknowledge it at the time, I did. But if you used to compare two private interviews, one fresh at the time and then one later, how different is that? It'd be good to know. Elisha says, Kaden's phone will show what time he went to the scene following Jack. He did not see Tyler Hardy at the scene. Why did Kaden have to track down law enforcement to give his statement? Yeah, so supposedly when it came to Kaden Pressy had to go out of his way, and he said it himself at times, trying to get an interview. It took a few weeks or a month to get in touch with Zachary Wright, if I can remember correctly. Kaden had to give a lot of effort and energy. And when it comes to a case, you're trying to cooperate and assist and work with police to get things done and resolved. But the police should put in so much as well, whether that be 50-50 or police put in more effort, reach out to you, come after you. Because I'm sure the police would come after you and go out of their way if you did wrong, and they'll get justice then, at times when it suits them. But when it's the other way around, and there's an innocent person, but they might have information, or they might be able to help, and the police are they're a bit reluctant, or they're not as proactive, it does make you question to an extent. I mean, let's say Kaden Pressy didn't follow it up and didn't try, didn't ask, didn't hand over phones, didn't cooperate the same way. Would the police remain casual, and would there be any damage long term? What would it lead to? Anything? It's just because when we hear it from the other side, and the majority of people, that when it comes to the girls, the party goers and some others, cooperation-wise with police, it was done very well, all cooperated, all done fine, above board, no issues there. So why is it all good for them and smooth, but when it comes to Kaden Pressy, there's a lot more effort involved? Kaden has to go out of his way more than others have. Is it because Kaden's described and treated as the odd one out? But then again, at the same time, if the police aren't willing to speed things up. Look at it with the Dylan Rounds case. On that occasion, you had James Brenner, who was the murderer, but not known at the time, early on, literally by the police. But as well, the police were at least aware that Brenner had done things in the past. In 2021, a year before, aggravated assault on a 69-year-old with, I think, a lawn chair near or at Montello, Nevada, I think. There was a warrant out for his arrest, but never followed up. And the excuse was, because of the virus, because of lockdown, and we can't go about. Yeah, I don't think so. 2021 onwards, it got a little bit better, just trying to excuse things. Oh, and because that arrest warrant wasn't issued and the police didn't go out to get Brenner, it led to Dylan Rounds' death. If Brenner was apprehended, Dylan could still be alive till this day. So because of the lack of proactiveness from the police and not really giving a toss about what Brenner's done before getting in trouble and didn't really follow it up, you could think, well, does that apply to Kaden Pressy then? Kaden Pressy could be seen in the eyes of the police as responsible, but the police don't want to follow it up. Wouldn't make any sense there because Kaden isn't related to any of the police people, supposedly, so the police people wouldn't need to look out or be cautious or care for Kaden. They just see him as just a person, and if a person's done wrong, then the police are probably more likely to follow it up and get justice that way. But if there is a conflict of interest along the way, they might be more reluctant, but there isn't any conflicts of interest between Kaden Pressy and police from the looks of it, but there could be conflicts of interest between police, certain members, towards other family and family members. So you could say when it comes to the partygoers who have cooperated with police and police have cooperated with the partygoers besides Kaden, there's been a faster process in transferring stuff, processing things, and getting alibis across as soon as possible because certain police people care more about other partygoers than Kaden. Is there an imbalance there? You could argue it to an extent. What else do we have? So Elisha says, there are a lot of things untrue which my son has stated, but instead of listening to him, he gets treated as though he is not being honest. That doesn't sit right with me. We want to know what happened to Noah. Who did this to Noah? He did not get hit by a car. How are the vehicles that Kaden saw at the scene at roughly 5:20 that morning different than the ones there when law enforcement showed up? How is that not an issue? Let me just check that again. How are the vehicles at 5:20 that different than the ones there when law enforcement showed up? Well, to my knowledge and understanding, I thought the vehicles that were present at around... Oh, no. The vehicles at around 5:20 to 5:40, let's just use that roughly. Unknown truck drivers, don't know the names or identities of them. 5:43 onwards to 5:53, a different pair of truckers called Tyler H and Tyler Hardy. Kaden didn't see the Tylers. Kaden saw a different set of truckers. Tyler Hardy didn't see Kaden, supposedly, but overheard another person in a high-vis jacket telling someone to leave the scene. But that's at a later time. It could well be when Renee came on down at the highway to look and see what was going on, and maybe she was told to leave. Who knows? But there seems to be a difference between two different pairs of truckers or drivers, let's call it that. Early on, you had a certain pair in their own vehicles, unknown named guys. And then afterwards, there was another pair that came on down and actually took more direct action by actually phoning police. So you could say that there is a difference, yes, and that the first pair of unknown truck drivers or drivers in general who did not call police is a bit odd. You right? So, interesting. Moving on, as part of the extended conversation, in response, the guy says, I appreciate you, Elisha, sending me what we asked for. We will continue to look into these things, and if we have any more questions for Kaden, we will contact the attorney. Thank you. And Elisha says, I understand you can ask questions and want answers, but you do not want to do the same for us. Do you understand how that looks? In response, we're unable to answer questions and release certain information during an open investigation. And then Elisha says, understood. And that appears to be pretty much it. But in terms of the guy's question, Elisha didn't respond or answer at the end of the day. So there's that. Now, moving on, this is something a little different. This perspective is actually from one of the Facebook pages, which may or may not be private, but for the most part of it, pages nowadays, groups are private, but there was an understanding that things can be passed on and shared publicly, just as a bit of a background reference, as you've seen with my previous videos. This is a part of Donna's post of some sort with a comment thread attached to it. So I'll read from what we can see on screen at least and see how this ties into anything of today. Someone says, we all know this, what not hit and run. Noah Presgrove was murdered that night. Well, he wasn't murdered that night. If he was murdered, it was Monday morning. Let's get the language and wording correct, so there are no misunderstandings whatsoever. I know people will say, yeah, but it was pretty much, and it might as well have been nighttime because it's dark, people are going to sleep. I don't fucking care. If it's AM, morning time, it's Monday morning, okay? The amount of people that could get confused over this is crazy. And people could say, no, you don't need to worry, y'all. We got y'all under control. Well, good for you, but outsiders may get confused. Just like with dates, it's okay reading dates, but if it's the reversed way around, it can get confusing. That's why you need an outsider, a foreigner, or do you call that? I don't know. Me, basically, to highlight all this. So no matter where you are from around the different worlds and countries, you get a general idea. So when Noah died, it was Monday morning. And if it was murder, it was Monday morning. Let's continue reading. And I'm sorry, everyone that is changing their story or claiming they weren't there the night. The day is a suspect. Everyone on this page should want the same thing. We should all want truth and justice for Noah. That's it. And be doing everything to find the truth, not trying to cover it up. And I honestly hope none of these kids were involved, but obviously that's not the case. Several of these kids know exactly what happened, and if you had any love or respect for Noah, you would do the right thing. I'm done here. Prayers for Noah and his family, that they can get closure. I don't know who said that, because it looks like it's a comment within Donna's post. But Justin Roy does respond to Elisha Lee and says, I love how you post and then block me. Elisha Lee, how long did it take for your son Kaden to talk to police? And he didn't volunteer to go either. It took him over a month. So that ties in line with what I was saying earlier. It took a month to get in touch with Zachary Wright. Kaden mentioned it himself in one of the interviews, which I think probably was Partners in True Crime, as to the length of time it took. From the perspective of Kaden in the public interview, he was coming across as if he wanted the interview. He wanted to communicate and help with police and the ongoing investigation. But no matter how hard he tried and the hunger he had, the police just didn't really want anything to do with him. But Justin Roy here at the time, because what we've got to take in mind, I think I did read this out in a past video, but this conversation was in the past. And I think things may have been resolved since. Was it all cleared up completely? I can't fully remember. But something like this, if Justin Roy is present, or maybe Elisha Lee, if this could be cleared up, maybe in the comment section, if you want to, and if you're in the mood, feel free to do so. But how long did it take your son to go to the police? He didn't volunteer to go either. Is that so? Because Kaden Pressy was, if you interpret it, what he said in the public interview, he was volunteering, he was ready, he was willing. But Justin Roy says he wasn't. How do we know? It took him over a month when his so-called friend got murdered. Why did he wait so long? If he had information or if he knew stuff, why didn't he proceed quicker? Well, Elisha Lee responds to Justin, I did not block you, and don't come at me spewing lies. We What? The family called OHP at 6 in the morning, the morning Noah was found. You don't actually know anything. That's a problem, but I don't know if it was mentioned by Elisha or somebody else on behalf of Elisha, saying that 6 in the morning timestamp was a mistake and it wasn't correct. But from the alternative side of people out there who were just as questioning towards Elisha's avoiding the question towards that police guy, such as here, mentioning a very eye-opening timestamp at a significant point in the case on the day. Yeah, I can understand questioning it. If it was a mistake and it wasn't meant that time, then why was it mentioned in the first place? Is there a reason? A slip of the tongue? Confusion? Meaning to say 8 a.m, not 6 a.m? It's only because, based off Kaden's own timeline, the public one, Kaden Pressy said, originally, on Partners in True Crime, that when it came to 6:30 a.m, at 6:30, Kaden Pressy was at the party house with the guys and the girls at the time of when Renee Millan arrived at 6:30. Sorting things out, requesting firearms to be handed over, and Kaden clearing up beer cans and whatnot. Then, close to 7 a.m, 7 in the morning, Kaden Pressy said he and the guys went home. Kaden, in his red Cherokee, was dropping Brylan, Mikey, Isaac off, and supposedly Renee Millan with Jasmine and Stephanie, not at the time, but we found out in the private interview, along with Stephanie's boyfriend and Renee's husband, they all left, which would leave Logan, Avery and Carter behind by themselves, awaiting Sarah Long to arrive later. That's how it seems to be when you piece it all together. So if Kaden Pressy at that point hadn't told his parents, because Kaden said once he finally got back home at around or near to 8 a.m, 8 in the morning, Monday morning, when he got back to the place of living to tell his parents, Elisha and whoever the name of the father is, what happened. 8 a.m. onwards. Why is Elisha here saying 6 in the morning when Noah was found? Was Noah found at 6 in the morning? By some, yeah. But realistically, Noah was found, at least when it was officially called in, at around 5:43 a.m. by Tyler H. Not Tyler Hardy, but Tyler H. If you want to dial it back earlier to Kaden's timeline, well, it's 5:15 when the news of Noah's death and where he was found at on the highway. So for Elisha to use the 6 a.m. timestamp as for contacting OHP on top of saying that's the time Noah was found, that's incorrect. So 2 mistakes are made here. It's just trying to understand why or how the mistake was made when Kaden Pressy himself stated in the public interview that it was 8 in the morning onwards when he got back home to tell Elisha, mother and father, the news. It could well be a mistake, this. It could well have been cleared up already. This appears to be an old conversation, could be considered old news. I'm just simply narrating over this to try and understand it, look into it deeper compared to the last time, and it is a part of the viewer request. So even if something like this can be cleared up, that's progress, right? Moving on. What do we have here? Appears to be Facebook Messenger. Okay, hopefully this is clear enough. On the left-hand side, once again, greyed out box, you've got Elisha Lee. This is June 13th at 6:34 p.m. So it's quite fresh at the time, the month of the interview with Kaden Pressy and police, right? What's said here? Elisha, did you listen? How does this trooper, whom is Zachary Wright's supervisor, not know about Kaden's interview with Zachary? The one that took place in October. We saw in some earlier screenshots, whether it's in a particular order or not, because I think the other screenshots were a bit later on or earlier, but regardless, in the other screenshots, the Elisha was saying, how do you not know about the interview with Zachary Wright and Kaden? No, you should know all this. And it's been brought up once again here, or being brought up the very first time round. How does this trooper not know about an official interview in the past with, the Forster police? In response, June 13th at 7:13 p.m. Not yet. We are waiting for the kids to finish dinner. Then I'm listening with the DA of Wise County and his wife. We want the kids out of the house. They're nosy 15-year-olds. They're going out to something soon. Right, so this is the beginning of a conversation. I don't know what that blanked out picture or image is. It looks like trees. It almost looks like drone footage, but it could be something completely different. This is where things get a little bit messy, if I'll be honest with you. This is where the problems could come about. I know we're jumping into the deep end, but it might shock some people. It depends on the timing of it all. So, the context behind all of this is, for quite some time there has been an understanding, to an extent a universal agreement, that the June private interview of 2024 involving Kaden Pressy and police, or OHP, whichever ones you want to call them, which was supposedly hacked and then released public a few months back now. Do you remember it? I did an analysis of it all, but I didn't play the footage in whole. But the channel Intelligent People Hate Me, well, they did release the whole thing. People are trying to work out, how did that guy get a hold of it? Who passed it on? Was there a middleman? Was it Brooke Bounds-Carter? And then Brooke saying, it ain't me, I ain't got nothing to do with it. And then others being very adamant that it was Brooke Bounds-Carter. And other complications along the way, right? I was under the understanding at first that the interview was leaked by someone, but Elisha said it was hacked, the Dropbox. The Dropbox was created for Kaden's attorney, and I guess that interview recorded from the perspective of Kaden, because he records all the interviews, was able to pass that recording on into the Dropbox that the attorney could access at some point. So it's quite private and formal, but then how could anyone else gain access if it's only limited to a small group of people? How else did someone else get a hold of it to then leak it, release it, right? Because at the end of the day, yeah, you can say it's like a hacked photo or a hacked video. The actual act of obtaining something, gaining access without true natural entry or clearance, you're breaking in. That could be considered hacking. Breaking into the US bank, breaking into some kind of security or the FBI wanted list online, you're breaking access, gaining entry to it in illegal ways. You don't have clearance, you're not supposed to have access, but you've managed to find a breakthrough, you've got in, you've obtained key sensitive documents, intel, and what do you do then? You leak it, right? So everyone can be right. Elisha can be correct in when she says hacked, and others can be correct when they say leaked. The act of obtaining possible sensitive information can involve hacking, gaining access to it. Then the act of releasing it publicly when you're not supposed to can be considered leaked, like the leaked text messages of Jack Newton, leaked text messages of Stevie Howard or whoever else in between, from both sides. Let's understand language and wording here. But what about the individual or people that may have been given access to it, not by hacking, but by given like a golden ticket? And supposedly that's how it is on screen right now. Elisha Lee has a link to the Dropbox of the interview. She says, this is Kaden Pressy's 2-hour interview with Trooper Anthony and another trooper, not Zachary. And below, after listening to this, It's clear they do not care what Kaden has to say, only want to twist what he has to say around. Right. This screenshot is a part of an earlier screenshot, what we looked at, where it was cut out. That is what we started reading, and then we read beyond that. So yes, apologies, the screenshots aren't in the correct order today. But once again, I'm working with what I've got, and how it was passed on to me was in the order of what we're looking at today. It's unfortunate, but shit happens. The fact is that originally the understanding was Kaden Pressy had the, interview or the recording, I'm guessing, unless the recording interview was more official. It's just because, like, when they say Kaden records all conversations and interviews, I'm just assuming that Kaden's audio of that interview is what we've heard ourselves, and then it was put into the drop box. Well, at the end of the day, whether it be by Kaden or the official police in that interview, or the OHP, whatever you want to call them, troopers, there was audio, not video, but audio of that interview which we've seen. Kaden may or may not have had access to it. Elisha had access, or at least was present in the presence of it. Roughly 2 people. A Dropbox created to put it into for safety reasons, I guess. Is Dropbox the safest of things? Not really. And then the attorney to have access to that Dropbox. It's like a three-way thing, I guess. All the key people, and kept like that. Kept in confidence. But here, whoever Elisha is talking to, some other individual, she shares the Dropbox link. And in terms of the conversation, it's semi-formal. So, Elisha is stating that things have been hacked. Someone has hacked into the Dropbox. Is that really true if Elisha has actually given an invitation link to have access to that interview? Apologies if I do get a little bit confused. I'm not too sure as to who's on the receiving end of this text, because it's only one way here. And it's in the wrong order compared to what we looked at earlier. But it's a fact that Elisha sent out a link to this private interview to somebody else, besides the attorney? What I do want to say is, before we go any further, just in case there's any instant backlash, I can't see any dates listed, right? Let's just say that the damage is already done. It's already been hacked by someone. It's already been leaked by someone. What else can you do now? You can't do much. With the damage done, the interview already released to some extent, is that the time of when Elisha sent this link to someone? It's already been hacked. Can't do any more about it. So here's the link. You might as well have a look at it yourself. I wonder. If it's based off that timing, then it doesn't make Elisha look bad, or you don't question the same way. But if this link was provided to someone before the news got out and it was leaked, the actual footage from the audio from the Dropbox, then you could be thinking, so whoever Elisha Lee trusted and shared the link with, that person who then had VIP access to it, were they the one to leak it? Which would basically mean that Elisha may or may not have put trust into somebody else in hopes that that other individual or group were genuine, gave them access so then they could figure it out, learn more, build a connection and an understanding, but they had other intentions in mind. And once they gained access, once they gained Elisha's trust, access to this, then they passed it on to somebody else, and then somebody else passed it on to somebody else, and then it was leaked. Or the original person that received this link directly leaked it from there on. Basically, in terms of the words hacking and leaking, based off this screenshot and on the conditions that this was posted before it all came about publicly, whilst it falls back on Elisha as in Elisha being the one to state, oh, it's been hacked. Someone somehow got into the Dropbox and hacked it. Oh, but by the way, I shared a link to someone. Add one and one together. Oh, maybe it was that person that I trusted, believed in, but then they double-crossed me, stabbed me in the back. Well, then it wouldn't be Elisha's fault, but it could be a form of naivety or vulnerability where you put your trust into someone and they may or may not stab you in the back shortly afterwards. Like a completely different situation between Justin Roy and George Choden, supposedly got close, not in a dodgy way, but communicated, supposedly shared, conversed in the background privately, and then things went wrong afterwards, and supposedly Justin Roy felt like he put his trust wrongfully in the person, built a bit of a rapport, and it was all for nothing. So it can create trust issues with time, and someone can stab you in the back. So yeah, you may come across someone who is nice or understanding, depending how they act, whether they speed things up, if they show a certain flow. Yes, it can all look good. Got to ask yourself, is it too good to be true? And that could be anything in life. You just got to be a bit cautious, because people may act nice, but acting nice is different to being nice naturally. You know, you put on a certain display or performance to gain access, to gain someone's trust, to break through that shield, that barrier, especially if someone has quite a shield on their face. You break through, you gain access, you gain trust, you gain intel. And at some point, you're like, boom, well, there we go. We got it all. I'm going to leave now, and now I'm going to leak it. Which would mean the individual did not hack the person, did not hack the Dropbox. They were directly given an invitation code by the individual that claims it was hacked. You get what I'm saying? So you gain access, a free invite, basically. You open the door, come on in. You want to sit on the bed? Sit on the bed. Do whatever. You've invited them into uncharted territory, but you trust them. Do they trust you? Well, they've got other mindsets, possibly. They get in, they've done nothing wrong. They gained your trust, they've done nothing wrong. They get a hold of intel, sensitive information, they've done nothing wrong. But as soon as they may pull the trigger and then leak it from there, it was still leaked, but it wasn't hacked. So basing it off those conditions, if all true, and the date and time, if the conditions are met, it would mean when Elisha Lee says it was hacked, that's incorrect. It wasn't hacked. You may have put trust in someone or some people, and it backfired. Not by it's their fault, but just the language and wording is incorrect. And the original term of it being leaked is correct, because there's a chance that, in a way, Elisha didn't want it to be revealed public, but she may have trusted the odd individual of the public or close person to access it. Even if it's not quite formally the right thing to do, there's a level of confidence that, well, it can't go wrong, can it? So this can be an exception. But someone else had other thoughts in mind. So at the end of the day, you could say it's shocking. Does something like this make Elisha look bad as a person? Some would say yes. What's my opinion on the matter? Well, this is where it ties in with the theme of language, wording, and the execution delivery of it. If you mention some bold key words and you state it with a level of confidence and certainty, it can make the overall situation appear very serious. But if in the end it's not quite how it turns out to be, and it's actually a lesser thing, then you might start questioning, well, then why did you word it like that when it wasn't really? See, this isn't quite on the same severity as in one person calls it rape, the other one calls it something else, and it's like, it varies. Both the act of hacking and leaking can both equally be bad. So there are exceptions. Does that make sense? I can't think of other counterpoints on the spot. Unless one person said, yeah, that's bullying. Well, that's a very serious matter. But in actual fact, it wasn't bullying. It was just a joke, but taken the wrong way or slightly misinterpreted. It's bullying or it's not. It's lightheartedness. Nothing too serious, nothing too deep, or it's bullying. One thing's more serious than the other. And if you use the wrong term, a more severe one, It'll be treated more severely and with higher importance and maybe fast-tracked. And if people get down to the bottom of it and find out it wasn't that severe and it wasn't that keyword or that buzzword, it was something lesser and it wasn't that big of a deal, then it falls back on you to be questioned. But on this occasion, whether something's hacked or leaked, the act of someone besides Elisha gaining access somehow to then thinking it's a good idea to leak it publicly is questionable. So whilst you can question Elisha Lee for her wording and terminology, which may be incorrect at times, such as here, the act of someone still leaking it public or passing it on to another individual, like a chain effect, why did they think that would be a good idea? Why would anyone think it's a good idea to leak something very sensitive like this when it could harm the case? How does it benefit the leaker? How does it benefit the leaker acting on behalf of somebody else? What does it do for them or a group? Is it done on purpose to try and undermine Kaden Pressy, to show that he's wrong, to show the mistakes made? And in the first place, whoever thought maybe it's a good idea to leak it, or anyone that thought it was a good idea to maybe get the trust of Elisha Lee, let's just put it that way as a theory, there must have been a reason or some kind of background knowledge to know that this particular interview by Kaden, besides the most freshest one of October, which could have even more important details, but no, will directly, specifically focus on leaking this later interview, which just so happens to have more mistakes in it or inconsistencies compared to the public one on Partners in True Crime, right? You can hear about interviews. Oh, Jack may have done an interview or did a polygraph. Okay, how come that hasn't been leaked? When it comes to any of the other party goers cooperating with police and doing interviews, how come none of them have been leaked? Why was it Kaden Pressy's of all people to be leaked? Because it's like a two-way thing, 50-50. Elisha Lee makes the mistake of actually sharing the link to someone or some other people, and through mistrust and more manipulative stuff going on, the outsiders who gain access to this, who have not hacked, end up leaking it. So you may appear nice or appear friendly, appear trustworthy. Gain that trust so then you can gain access to something and then you can exploit it after and onwards. So that's my take on it. It's still kind of shocking, but it's all about language and wording. This appears to be some kind of conversation, maybe on Facebook. Elisha Lee, Stevie Howard, I just skimmed over this. Let's get clarification on a few points in your statement. Kaden was drinking earlier in that day, or on that day, but not under the influence when he went to sleep. Not under the influence when he went to sleep. What, so he sobered up, basically? If that's the case, was there a time before going to sleep where Kaden could have given Noah a lift back home, though, if he's not under the influence of alcohol? Kaden said at around 10:30 p.m. Sunday night he sobered up quick when his cousin came on down unexpectedly. But around that time onwards, supposedly that's when Noah approached Kaden and Kaden said, I can't take you home because of drinking and might get in trouble with police. But then by the time of 2 a.m. where Kaden's about to go to sleep, if Noah asked Kaden again, would Kaden have said yes or no? Got to take in mind, if Kaden was going to go to sleep anyway because he's tired, it might not have been a good place to be driving anyway. Because even if you're not drunk but you're tired and you're driving on the road, that can go wrong, very wrong. Unless you get some chopsticks out, put them in your eyelids like Mr. Bean, you might stand a chance, but we're talking about real life here. So, what else do we have? Elisha says, this is what the third day you have brought up where I picked up my niece on the side of the Highway 81. My niece as in Kaden Pressy's cousin Georgia, 15-year-old girl. The girl driving her was in a tiny little car. My sister-in-law was in a small SUV, neither of which hit Noah, because if either of those vehicles would have hit Noah, 911 would have been called immediately and he would have been taken to the hospital. However, those vehicles are still in the possession of the ones that drove them, and I'm sure they wouldn't mind anyone looking at them. Hitting someone in a small vehicle would have caused damage to the plastic bumpers, hood, fenders. You get what I'm saying, because it's different to a truck. Yes, your boldness in stating such things is fascinating to me, especially when it can be proven as false. So, supposedly by the likes of Stevie Howard and some others who are at some point obsessed with a hit and run, trying to possibly bend it towards Elisha Lee or who else? Elisha Lee or her sister-in-law, the small SUV. Just so I don't get confused, is Elisha's sister-in-law known as Melissa? I'm not good when it comes to family trees and ties and titles because I don't often think about it because it's not important to me that much. So I don't remember all the names. But Melissa, at least, would be the mother to Georgia. Georgia, Kaden Pressy's cousin. Georgia to Elisha Lee, niece. Now, what I do find interesting here in Elisha Lee's response, if I'll be honest with you, in terms of language and wording, where someone like Stevie or others may have questioned Elisha, her car, or the sister-in-law's car being on the highway. Oh, well, if it's on the highway, then it must be at the time or near to when Noah was hit. Hit and run, link it all together, boom, solved, like that. How some could interpret it. But the reason why it's really important is because instead of Elisha Lee's response to those possible, well, suppose ridiculous claims, Elisha Lee should have said, it's just not true because of the timing of when it took place. But what Elisha Lee actually says is, because on the conditions if either of those vehicles that would have hit Noah, if that really did happen, if one of our vehicles or someone else that we knew of, as for the vehicle that hit Noah, we would have called the police immediately, unlike somebody else that may have been responsible, if a hit and run was possible, if it was the case. It's not the best wording by Elisha. Because yes, you are responding back, but what you should be saying is, you know, your claim of a hit and run and trying to link it to us is abhorrent, is ridiculous. Not because if one of our vehicles would have hit Noah, we would have called 911, but the fact is that if one of our vehicles was present on the highway, it wouldn't have hit Noah because it was at a completely different bloody time, right? At least when Kaden Pressy's mom, Elisha Lee, called Kaden, that was at 2:42 a.m. At 2:42 a.m, Elisha confirmed to Kaden that the cousin, known as Georgia, Elisha's niece, made it back safely, made it back home. So before 2:42, at some point, was when they met up on the highway and took her home. Elisha present, sister-in-law of Elisha present too. Okay, why is that significant? Because 2 minutes before 2:42, that key timestamp provided by Kaden and that call made by Elisha to announce that the cousin was already taken back home, is 2 minutes before that at 2:40 was the supposed timestamp of the side-by-side rollover, which Kaden Pressy mentioned in that private interview, in which he mentioned that at a later point, one of the guys showed him a photo, the video of it with the timestamp attached, 2:40, Monday morning, a.m., right? Visual, hard evidence. And Kaden Pressy relayed that in the interview. He wasn't told about it, he was shown it at the time. And then that's when Kaden tells people about it. So there's that. And why is that significant? Because at 2:40 a.m, it was Noah who was in that side-by-side rollover. It was Noah driving it. It was Noah who had an injured, bloodied nose from what was seen within the photo and the video, which Kaden Pressy witnessed and was shown. So if Noah Presgrove was in that bloody side-by-side rollover at 2:40 in the morning, and then 2 minutes later, Kaden wakes up because Elisha calls him to say the cousin made it back home, it means that the cars that were present on the highway even earlier to intercept Georgia and take her back was at a much earlier time, at a time of when Noah was still at the party and still alive. So they just can't link whatsoever, right? So like other people along the way which have said, well, if you got Elisha Lee or if you got Melissa and they're driving down the highway to intercept Georgia to take her back, well, if they're all along the highway, that's where Noah supposedly died. Well, yeah, but at what time did Noah walk away from the property supposedly and be interpreted as going towards the highway on foot or by other means? That's 3:30. At 2:42, an hour or whatever earlier, the cousin already made it back home. The parents and family members were on the highway hours before Noah left the party house. Or roughly hours. You get what I'm saying? It just can't link, unless one timestamp's wrong. So, yeah, it's a bit ridiculous, that claim. But Elisha Lee, in all fairness, doesn't help herself in her response. She should have just said, based off the timing of when I called Kaden to announce that the Georgia was taken back home, that was at 2:42. Noah was still alive at the party at that time, so we couldn't have hit him on the highway. That's what should have been said. But by Elisha saying, because if any of our vehicles hit Noah, we would have called 911. That's kind of like the equivalent, not as dodgy, but still the equivalent of Stevie Howard saying, well, if our people, our parents are so, as us as parents are so evil, if we were responsible, we would have done a better job at disposing of Noah. You're giving a situation, you're giving a scenario in response to a silly claim or question made. It's not exactly ideal because it can dig yourself into a hole. It's better to just say the reality, state the facts and the timeline. Now, I know I give examples along the way and comparisons, but that might be at a time of when I might not be able to give the evidence on the spot. But then at the same time, when I do give examples, I'm not digging myself into a hole. The only time I might dig myself into a hole is when things get a little bit dodgy and out of context, but that's not to do with the case, that's just to do with random conversation, and we're probably going to encounter that later. Isn't that right, Lisa? Yeah. But at this moment in time, hopefully people get an idea of where I'm coming from here. Was there anything else to acknowledge? Hitting someone in a small vehicle. So, Elisha says, who exactly woke up Kaden that morning? Now, it wasn't Jack Newton. It was your sister, as in Sarah Long. Strange statement, but nonetheless, still untrue. Yet you expect us to believe that Kaden, is lying and all your family and friends, including local law enforcement and fire department friends and family, are telling the truth? Surely you could post a screenshot of the video you state Kaden is rolling over the Can-Am. What the hell's that? Noah was not naked. When? Other guys in Kaden's vehicle have stated such as well, and one has stated the same time frame. Oh, Brylan Sweat? Isaac Rojas, one of them? About the kids are not talking to Kaden anymore. Is that why Brylan and Jack pulled up next to Kaden and his friend talking at the ASAP gas station after something? Right. Okay, so the bit about a supposed screenshot or the video that states Kaden is rolling over the Can-Am, I've no clue what that means. But about Noah not being naked at the highway, that's what Elisha is referring to there. And basically, that when Kaden was at the highway and with the other guys, at least one of the others backed him up, supposedly, stated the same time frame. We don't see it here, but that's supposedly it. Now, there was a bit of doubt within the odd person in the background that said, Kaden's post. Elisha Lee says her sister-in-law was in a small SUV. But in OHP interview, Kaden says Elisha drove her Camaro. Someone is lying. Well, I haven't got an image immediately because maybe of copyright, but if you go online, a Camaro SUV does exist. Is there a possibility that Elisha says her sister-in-law was in a small SUV Camaro, but then when it came to the interview by Kaden didn't state what type of vehicle, but he did state the brand, a Camaro, because a Camaro SUV does exist in this world. So it could be they're talking about the same exact vehicle, just a different description given. Possibility? Maybe. Moving on. And as well, let's just say the alternative that it was a lie. Why would there need to be a lie, as in what vehicle was actually used or driven at the time, if at the end of the day, the timestamp of when it did take place earlier was at a time of when Noah was still at the party house and still alive? So it still wouldn't connect. But you could say, as an alternative, to lie about an insignificant event is a little bit questionable if it is a lie. Just like the side-by-side rollover, yes, it involved Noah, but at an earlier time, which didn't lead to his death directly. So there's not a direct correlation from one thing to another, but it's still a part of the timeline, and to be lying or getting it mixed up with a part of the timeline is questionable, because if it's such a simple bloody event and a simple thing, it should lead to simple questions, simple answers, and that's not what's happened. So that's an issue. Now, moving on, this appears to be Facebook. I will zoom in just a little bit. I think this might be from the desktop as a screenshot. It's just because the width and the size of it looks a bit different. I mean, when it's Facebook Messenger mobile, it'll be the vertical aspect ratio. That's why it looks smaller. This one's wider. So I'm thinking it's either from a laptop, a computer screenshot, or if not that, maybe a tablet. Now, a bit off subject, I know statistically there's actually a handful of people that watch my videos on tablets. Shout out to one of them who's probably watching right now. I hope you've got a firm grip of that tablet. Yes, you do. Yes, you do. Good. Now, let's lock back in. There is a timestamp on the left which says July 24th, 2024, 11:02 a.m., a month after the private interview, which is interesting. Following that order, Elisha on the left-hand side in the greyed box with a profile picture, and then on the right, somebody else that says, Jan, I think knows it's not possible to release that publicly in an open investigation. Elisha says, if they get their hands on Kaden's data, it will just give them what they need to come up with a new timeline. No thanks, not going to happen. So this was one of the other questionable things which was highlighted by a person in the background earlier on. Kaden's data, phone pings. So if it came out publicly, that it showed where Kaden was, what he was doing at what time, the phone pinging and the timestamps, whether that be at the time of Noah's death or beyond, at the highway, for example, if that all came about, it would give ammunition to the opposition to come up with an alternative timeline to weaponize it against Kaden and attack him? Would there be a reason or any worry if Kaden's data is, in line, and it proves that he was here or there and his timeline is true and his original timeline is genuine and innocent as well, because for most part of it he was asleep, he was out of it, and then the only time of when he was present or active was post-death of Noah, such as at the highway, then if it was released publicly, how could people come up with new ammunition to weaponize Kaden's data against him and create a new timeline of BS? I can understand Elisha Lee being cautious in general, but if there's no doubt, there's no questioning, there's no worry or concern, and you're confident in Kaden's data and his whereabouts and his phone ping, then if it did come out publicly, there'd be no need to worry. Because anyone that tried twisting or turning it, they'd be grasping at straws, wouldn't they? Unless there's an alternative. Unless there's just simply a trust issue and you want to be very careful. Just like how it could be misunderstood, not guaranteed, but could be misunderstood with the mentality of Ashley Chadwick Robin Smith, who, two of the Noah Presgrove family members, didn't want to sign the social hosting law petition thing, but other family members did. Other family members did because they believed it was needed, it was the right thing to do, and it may link to Noah's death, but Ashley Chadwick Robin Smith, or at least Ashley herself, felt it wasn't worth signing because what good does it do for the case? Does it create double jeopardy or something like that? Does it harm the case? Will it just simply lead to a slap on the wrist for the likes of the party host Avery Combs, and then what good comes out of that afterwards? But how did they know for sure that it would have a negative impact when other family members believe it could have a good impact or for the right reasons? So there could just be a genuine level of doubt. Even when everything's above board, people can still doubt themselves or doubt a situation. If something is too good to be true, you may doubt it. Even if everything's all in place, fine and legit, and a person is genuine, you might still find it hard to believe. Right? And that could come in many different ways, whether it be a person's personality, a person's appearance, whether that be in real life or elsewhere, digitally speaking. You think, oh my God, they are perfect. Is this even real? Am I pinching myself? Things like that. Well, this is like digitally as well. Like you've got digital data, and if it was released public, even though it's supposed to be confident, but if you've got lack of confidence in the delivery of stuff and other people along the way, because if this is June and if July earlier anything went wrong, then it would make sense as to why Elisha could be on shaky terms with how things could come about, even when normally there'd be a level of confidence and certainty. It's like if you were at a theme park on a roller coaster ride or a slingshot, and 9 times out of 10 it was perfectly fine, very safe, done professionally, and that one occasion, the final time you go on it, a string snaps and you almost get flung out. Your chest is going everywhere because your bloody shirt's pulling down as well. And you think, oh my God, everything's all hanging out loose. I don't trust this. Oh no. The next time you go on it, whilst 9 times out of 10 it's been successful, that one negative experience has overshadowed everything else and has completely destroyed your confidence and belief in whatever. The same could happen here. If you've seen a pattern of how things have gone, if it was true that in the past other information and evidence has been provided from Elisha or Kaden, but it's been twisted and turned despite everything, then on this occasion you could think the same way, maybe. But if you have come across as confident that this data, be all, end all, this proves that Kaden's right and the timeline's correct, all confident, no worry, no concern, then to say something along the lines of it would just give other people a chance to create a new timeline for the wrong reasons. But how? Even if it gave an opportunity for some people somehow to create an alternative timeline to attack Kaden further, it wouldn't be good enough, because if you've got actual data and evidence, hard evidence and digital evidence, that will always shine brighter than some made-up timeline by some cretins in the background. So a level of caution here, you could question, some people at least, not me, but some people could question Elisha Lee. But anyway, Elisha then says, I think Jan Friorillo, has a good heart and is well educated. However, we have had conversations where she is requesting I send the data to her attorney for him to review, and that he had other interest in the case. And for what reason would that be? When I asked Jan who her attorney was and what he needed the data for, she became very defensive and removed herself from a group chat we were in with others. And as you know, when you get group chats on Facebook, it's an absolute fucking disaster at times, isn't it? There'll be some good ones, but it can go wrong at times. So this situation with Jan Friorillo and an attorney, I'm guessing this is all tying back to Jan's offer. Is that right? Jan's offer online to get people to speak up, to reach out to an attorney, legal fees to be paid for. Is Elisha Lee indirectly feeling at the time that Jan had other intentions, a middleman or a middlewoman for somebody else in the case? I wonder. Now, apologies if there was a slight little jump cut there. Booking device spazzing out like an absolute knob, but I've got it back in control now. But for Elisha Lee to show a level of doubt earlier on, still in 2024, it makes you think deeper. You know, how many people actually trust you? How many people are thinking other things? A person could wave or say hi or say something nice, but is the same thing being reciprocated in the mindset of the person that issued it in the first place? This is where it gets very deep, psychologically speaking. There are a handful of cretins that I've come across with time and in the past of 2022, where they come along to my channel, hey, Wally Graph, really good, and then start talking, communicating with others, sharing thoughts, and at some point something goes wrong, they change in behaviour, I've documented it, I've analysed it, I've predicted it, and it's all under control. But they piss off, they go elsewhere, they show their true colours more, they talk behind my back and do more and more and show themselves up. And it's like, whilst they've got a lot to say about me now, face to face or behind my back in a negative way, were they always thinking that in the past? It's just that there wasn't a trigger point to actually, for them to give me a piece of their mind. Yeah, exactly. So, with other people, like with Elisha Lee, at what point did Elisha truly start feeling something was a bit off with Jan, possibly? At the exact time as what's mentioned on here, roughly, or even earlier? Because there might be even people watching in the background right now lurking who may be a bit cautious. I mean, after what I've said, everyone probably looking in all different directions thinking, oh shit, who do we trust now? Yeah. And it's like when you say you're 2 steps, 5 steps ahead, is everyone else aware of that or not? This case, the community, but also true crime in general, across all platforms and different cases, is a chessboard. Who's got the upper hand? Who knows what's going on? Who's playing dumb? Who's experimenting? Who's completely in the dark? Who's the manipulator? Who's the Black Widow? What the hell's going on? There are many references, there are many terms. It goes very, very deep. That aside, in response, highlighted in blue, they say, whoa, she should be respecting your choice of legal representation and not interfere with it, period. That's the last thing anybody should be doing. You choose your attorney based on your gut feelings and intuition. You don't want anybody telling you anything else. Yes, Jan, she's a good lady and she wants to see progress on the case, but she needs to leave you alone when it comes to actions like these. So you may have outsiders at times with certain resources that may think they know better or genuinely feel that they can have a positive impact on the case, but then that conflicts with others associated within the case who've got their own means or methods. So it leads to gears grinding, tension, conflict, and worse. Let me know your thoughts down below in the comments. And last but not least, this is by Jan Fiorillo, I guess from Facebook somehow. And in the background, people were saying that on the left is Jan Fiorillo, and then on the right, highlighted in blue, is Brooke Bounds Carter. But others out there have suggested that it's not. It's some other person, and this was reposted or shared by Nana Bentley on Facebook publicly. So who bloody knows what's going on, but read it anyway, it's a little bit blurry. Jan says, wait, those screenshots were DM'd from Justin Roy? Question. I was on my phone and just assumed those were from George Choden because my eyesight ain't what she used to be. That's even funnier now. That's Seb. In response, someone says, I have screenshots from tons of people with Justin Roy. Anything that y'all have talked about have been sent to, I know, 7 people. Jan says, please share. I had a legally binding NDA, non-disclosure agreement, in place with Justin Roy. Between us girls, that tidbit about Robbie being Jose was a plant to test that NDA was not being violated because I had some suspicions. It circled back in less than 15 minutes. So experimenting at the cost of a supposed innocent person online just to test trust reasons. Was that the right thing to do? Was it ethical? I don't know. So some people may be wondering, who the hell is Robbie? Now, I'll be honest with you, the only Robbie that I've heard of before in this case was Dylan Rounds in 2022. There was a guy called Robbie with blonde hair. His hairstyle looked like a bloody ice cream, and he would be walked by dogs. I mean, he would walk the dogs himself. And the way he sounded was, hey guys, this is Robbie back again with a TwitchCon review. We'll be doing a live stream today. I'll see you later. Robbie out. I've got my dog collar wrapped around my neck. I've got my laptop by the side of me and I gotta do deliveries. That's how it went That's how it sounded. That's the impression. But we've got a different Robbie present. Robbie as in the one with a default brown profile picture, if I'm correct in saying, based off my memory, who's been fairly active in the case on my channel, commenting, has been helpful at times and whatnot, and communicating with other people. Not everybody may see eye to eye with this supposed Robbie, but then along the way, there was claims made that the person called Robbie was actually called Jose, Josie. I don't even know why that's significant unless a Jose or a Jose is linked to some other person within the case in a negative way. But basically, at the end of the day, whilst Robbie has been pleading innocence as Robbie is Robbie and nothing more, nothing less, not Jose, that's fake news. That seems to be confirmed here by Jan Friorillo that says between us, the mention about Robbie being Jose was fake news. It was to test the non-disclosure agreement to make sure it wasn't being violated, to ensure that there was trust. So anything that happens after that point with whoever involved, it'd be done smoothly. So at the expense of an experiment, Robbie was used. Is that so? But is there a background, a backstory behind Robbie of all people being used as an experiment? Is there any particular reason? Is it because Robbie is just seen as a default profile online and it doesn't mean much? No offense to Robbie. I mean, maybe if you're more established online or more well-known, they're not going to be experimenting with you because they might be thinking, oh shit, that's going to fall back on them. But if we just target some random person who may or may not be defenseless, whatever, then there are not going to be as many consequences, damage or limitation through the usage of experiments maybe. What else do we have here in response? Not just Justin Roy either. Sweet old Michael Facecaz as well. And Jan says, does not surprise me at all. Unfortunately, neither one of them have anything of value worth suing them over, lol. Although I wouldn't mind having my attorney send them some scared letters, lol. Right, so she's not surprised by Michael Facecaz and Justin Roy. So they're not seeing eye to eye or something. But Jan says there's no value worth suing Michael or Justin. It sounds a little bit dark, this, doesn't it? What the hell's going on? I know this might have been a deep video, but we're not quite finished yet. So if you're going to run away, get back here right now. I just want to give a bit of a debriefing and my thoughts of all that and then tie in with something a little bit different, a little bit more lighter, okay? So hopefully Lisa is still present. But hopefully, all in all, with all those little screenshots and messages that were looked at, it was done within an appropriate nature, with appropriate language and wording from both sides. Because there might be people in the background that may have wanted, requested, or some further out there demanded for a video to be done like this. And as I said, in response, there's a time and place for everything. As long as one has access to it and it's practical and it's viewable and stuff like that, and it's within reason, then of course it will be done. Because I've done it elsewhere, I've looked at other people, I've questioned them, I need to do the same here for that full circle, that full balance and that full understanding. But the aims, the methods or the means by others that may want a video like this may want it because it shines a negative light on Elisha Lee or Kaden Pressy and beyond, or Jan. And at the end of the day, it can be interpreted that way, yes, with what we've looked at today. But with certain elements, you could understand it in defense of Elisha or some others. It all comes down to language, wording, those conversations, those responses, the psychology behind it, the emotional connection at the time, and what was going through a person's mind and head, just like others. But because I've done that, if others in the background complain, get hissy or bitchy with me and say, how could you? Well, that's not my problem, because I've done for and against. I've looked at it from different sides over time. And even within this highly demanded video, it was still done with a lot more control than what anyone else could possibly do, because a lot of people are emotionally tied up within this case, so they would end up misinterpreting something or mis-highlighting a possibility. Okay? So I would say with some of the screenshots, what we looked at can be considered questionable and points made, yes. But at the same time, what was going through the head of the person then, and when it came to language and wording. But in all honesty, if at some point I was going to be lenient towards people in question today, then a level of leniency needs to be applied to others. Does that mean being lenient towards Brooke Bounds-Carter or Stevie Howard or Jack Newton or Carter Combs or Avery Combs? At some point, to an extent, yes, but maybe not been able to reach that point yet, right? It all comes down to the order of things. And some people will complain more after this, but tough shit, is that when coming across Elisha Lee and Kaden Pressy, the initial first impressions were positive, as in they're the victims, they're being attacked, unfairly treated and whatnot. Is that truly the case? Well, it comes across that way, yes. But then with some recent stuff, what we've looked at, it kind of adds in a few questions. If they can be cleared up below, that'll be better for that full circle being met. But that order was seeing something positive, seeing a wounded animal first. So you'll be more positive, more lenient, and have a certain understanding. But you still need the negative side, the questions, like now. But at the time, when coming across the likes of Brooke Bounds-Carter, or coming across Carter Combs, or when coming across certain people like that, Stevie Howard, the first initial impressions were negative because what was present, what was active, screenshots, conversations, whether it be the full conversation or certain bits clipped out without full context, it may have showed people in a more negative light than what they are. So not quite in defense of Brooke Bounds-Carter, but to re-quote roughly what she was getting at was that supposed threat, which wasn't really a threat, there was actually more context behind it, but it was cut out, trimmed. So whoever that was posted it in the first place or reposted it to make Brooke Bounds-Carter look 100% evil and bad, there was a bit more context above it in the conversation, which was never shown. So all you're seeing is the negative side from Brooke Bounds-Carter, but not what someone else may have had to say before that. That won't be the only example. There'll be other things along the way. So really, at the end of the day, you do need full context. And I don't know if you could argue and say, was there enough context today with the screenshots, what we looked at? Was it enough? Well, if it wasn't, you've got the comment section to provide additional details and bits and bobs, regardless from what side it is. But, with the theme is, whilst I've seen the negatives in the opposition early on, have I seen the positives in the opposition at any point? Not really, but you could say as an exception, and hopefully people don't twist or misunderstand this, but when it comes to Brooke Bounds-Carter, came across them in a negative way, not directly, but third hand, by screenshots and comments and conversations along the way. And in recent time, coming across Brooke Bounds-Carter direct, as in on my channel, communicating, responding, answering most questions, and even complimenting people's eyebrows at a time when I thought they were talking about mine, but it turned out to be a reference to Vanessa or somebody else. A little bit disappointed, but nevertheless, because a level of communication, with the exception excluding what went down recently with that laptop video, before that, when someone had a question or reached out, Brooke responded on the spot, which is a positive communication to an extent. Now, if you bring people back into the mix that have already had a bit of a history, an encounter with Brooke earlier on, the conversations may not go quite the same way, it might not be as smooth, it might not come across as positive, there might still be a bad taste in someone's mouth somewhere, fair enough. But like people who are on my channel and regular viewers that may not have access to Facebook, which may have never come across Brooke Bounds-Carter before, that level of communication for the first time round, first time interactions will be more neutral and not as negative. No bad taste in the mouth, which means more communication. Obviously, those from the past could say, well, if that's the case, then BBC can just string a load of lies to some unknowledgeable people and twist it with time. Is that a fact? I don't know. But I know in the Dylan Rounds case, where when it came to other communities and new people crossing on over, like the Noah's Ark effect, they'd come on in, they'd listen, they'd nod their head, yes, master, And because they don't know one another or they've not communicated before, the conversations are more neutral, more respect is shown, and higher chances of actually listening and listening to misinformation. Does that apply here, such as on this channel in the chat? Maybe not. Because at the end of the day, there probably would have been some people with time that don't agree with Brooke Bounds-Carter and join the conversations or questions along the way. And even when people have listened to Brooke, listened and then said, I don't believe you, or, well, I've been told other stuff, it doesn't really turn that nasty. So whilst things have got nasty or messy elsewhere, with certain combinations of people, it just seems to be more under control here. Now, it'd be ironic if I'm commentating about this and it's been a complete bloodbath in the chat tonight or later, time will tell. But at the end of the day, seeing the negative within Brooke Bounds-Carter, as in from the perspective of others, which have shown a certain perspective, which may not be the complete one, and then in recent time, coming across as, in a way, a positive with Brooke Bounds-Carter in just simple communication and answering questions and whatnot. And I know some people on the outside could say, well, they're only doing it or being like this because they've been booted or kicked elsewhere, so they've got to have somewhere to talk and be a mouthpiece and be a little bit positive to gain trust and favour within people and then do the manipulating and the controlling. No. I'm not going to be manipulating or controlling here when warlike Wrath is present, Emperor Wrath is present, the mighty whip with the big black strap present, okay? You might have BBC, but you know what's present here? BBW, big black whip, okay? So there's any rivals, any direct competition, all under control here, right? Might not be elsewhere, but it is here. So I think it's gone fairly well. I think the video has. As I said, when it comes to leniency, not everyone might be pleased with this video, or those that were anticipating me to like dig in even deeper or sharper may feel a little bit underwhelmed. But it had to be done in a controlled way. Not to please everyone, but just to maintain a level of focus and control of the general situation. Because 9 times out of 10, people that may get a hold of this may go too off in the deep end one way and not stay in the middle centered. So you look at for and against, you come across different sets and characters of people within the case or the community. You see their positive sides, you hope to see their negative sides, both. If you only see one side, you're not going to get the full understanding. So with Kaden Pressy, Elisha Lee, seeing the positive sides, communication, being positive in response feedback along the way, which is all good, credit to them. I suppose been attacked as well. But then with certain cracks, whether it be the wrong language or wording at times, or the odd little timestamp time thing not quite matching up, that's a slight negative. Okay, maybe mistakes can happen along the way, but you get what I mean, that full balance, no one can be perfect. So once you figure that out quick enough, then you get a better understanding of the individual, and there's just better knowledge. And then with the other characters, the darker sides and forces, where you see it in a certain way negative, you see a few positives there with them, which may be something you want to see or you don't want to see, but it happens, then you get a full understanding there. So the level of leniency in this video demonstrated towards certain characters may need to be demonstrated towards other characters, darker forces out there at a later point, but that can only be done once a full understanding is shown within them as well. And some people don't always help themselves, do they? With how they recount stuff and how they respond to people. And I'm just talking in general there. Some people make it more difficult for themselves and others along the way. I saw it in the Dylan Rounds case. There were some people who were supposedly genuinely innocent, supposedly, and were in the end, or at least that's how it went. But their actions, their behaviour, their attitudes, their responses, they did themselves no favours whatsoever, and they made themselves look more suspicious than what they actually were. Pointless, it's stupid, isn't it? And when you make yourself look more suspicious than what you are, and you kind of like put your foot in the door, you dig yourself into a hole, if you got the cheek then to complain and whinge and whine that, oh, why is everyone having a go at me? Why is everyone questioning me and using magnifying glasses to have a closer look? Why are people microscoping BJ? What? Is it that small? I don't know. I'm not an expert, but why are you microscoping certain small actions and words by somebody else in another case? Because you've done it yourself, self-inflicted. And then naturally people will catch on to that and question it further. If you try, at least, to tell the truth, and you try to be as consistent as you can, there shouldn't be as much negative fallback on you. So this case, the only reason why it's so complex, this case, is because there's a lot more people at hand and present, and then there's a lot more other additional people who may not have been there as sticking their foot into the door, who are maybe acting as representatives or just support or defending the loved ones, because that's like natural, normal human behaviour. So in this case, this party, there was only 4 people present. It might not be as convoluted as it is with how it actually is, right? Now, with that aside, let's look at something a little bit different and a little bit light-hearted to break away from this darkness, or at least break away from this heaviness, right? So, a viewer on my channel in recent time called Elisha, with a kettle or a pot, a red one, said, "Oh, and by the way, you made me spit my coffee out yesterday because I was boiling water for my tea, and that exact moment when you said, oh, there's Lisa with a little teapot getting ready to blow her lid." I bet it's not the first time either. But this is the thing, Lisa. I guess I'm just a mind reader. I don't need the odd ball to shine up. I don't need the odd crystal to shove where the sun doesn't shine. Somehow, I just managed to predict things even when it's not live at the time. Just like I've terrified people in the past in my live premieres, a pre-recorded video. I brought up somebody's name or a reference or a question, or I've even answered a question. And then hours later, when the video has premiered live and people are watching it, it timed at the same moment when someone appears in chat or says something. It's so weird. But never mind, Lisa, all under control. And I'm sure, Lisa, by the way, you got it all under control with your teapot. Whilst your mouth and your reflexes may not be quite there, your teapot is remaining firm in place, holding back the liquid in the name of we the coffees, we the tea. But besides that, Lisa also said with some interesting emojis also, "I'm sorry you're so confused about how a BJ works exactly. In particular, all the confusion you seem to have regarding the blowing and sucking aspects of a BJ ... I know the terminology can be kind of confusing, but from what I've been told, it's just the man that's doing all the blowing. Is that so?" So yes, I just wanted to share my additional thoughts to that, because we really need to analyse, the situation here, because obviously it's very important and somehow linked somewhere. When it comes to Lisa referring to the other gender doing all the blowing, sometimes you got to blow off steam if things get too much. At the end of the day, when you blow, you got to let go. And if in doubt, whip it out, because we've got Victoria's Secret material here, and even Sharon is a little bit jelly of it. Why do I have it? I don't even know. But I'll tell you one thing for certain, the zip does not have a tip on it, so it can't even open. I can whisper to it, I can plead with it, it will not open. But you know what did open? Lisa's mouth, when it all came out. But this is the thing, okay, no offense, Lisa, but I seem to have this effect on people. Over time, a lot of people have wet themselves. I'm not saying that you did, Lisa, because, it just came out like a little fountain, which, fair enough, is good. But I guess it just comes to language, wording, timing, and delivery. It's like when Sharon popped out somewhere or fell off the windowsill last night and then returned back and said, "Hi, I've come back now." And at the time when she showed up, I was talking about STDs. Well, not me, but a comment referencing it because I misinterpreted it at the time. It wasn't an STD like that. It was something completely different. But it's when people show up at the wrong time, when it's out of context, or just the timing, the delivery, and it makes people laugh. Because, I think what we also got to acknowledge is Lisa was spitting. She did not swallow. And other people that have got wet in the past spat. They were spitting it out onto their lap, getting wet. So besides me getting people wet, anyone I come across is spitting and not swallowing. So does that mean that it tastes that bad? Excuse me, not my fault. No. At the end of the day, it's better to spit than swallow. And Lisa, in her primal self-defense mechanism within the mind, because if Lisa swallowed whilst laughing, may have choked. You don't want to choke. You choke, you go broke. What? Broke to Brokeback Matrix? You need a good pat on the back to get it fixed. And that didn't need to be done today, so no medical cost expended there. Lisa has it all under control, spitting it out like how everyone else did in the past when laughing, unable to contain it. Even choking or spitting food out when you put something in your mouth, because I'm sure someone said they were eating biscuits in recent time, and something was said in the video, and then they had to get it all out. At the end of the day, it happens, but I don't know why some people right now in the chat are thinking with a corrupted mind. Naughty individuals, what were you thinking, with the language and wording? See, I am the most innocent person present, surrounded by lots of corrupted minds. No, I'm only joking. But at the end of the day, I've still got this blue thing wrapped around my neck. At the end of the day, hopefully you found the video somewhat interesting, especially about the Noah Presgrove stuff. If you do want to hit the like button, feel free to do so. If you want to share this video to spread awareness for the right reasons, that'll be appreciated. And be sure to drop a comment down below. At this moment in time of recording, I've not thought of a title of the video, but obviously I will do at some point. But there's a lot to take in mind, and indirectly, in the words or the mindset of Lisa, it can be quite a mouthful and it's quite hard to wrap your tongue around it at times. So, we'll get there in the end. And in the meantime, just edit, make sure it's all fine, thumbnail too, and we'll go from there. Hopefully not too much backlash. And people did watch from start to finish, then you would understand. If people don't understand, you might just have to rewind the video back. And if this video does disappear for whatever reason, it's because obviously some dodgy stuff's gone on and whatnot. Just as a heads up. With that all being said, my name's Warlike Ref. I'll see you next time. Goodbye. Good night for now.